at the Seniors Blue Book University, or SBBU as we like to call them. And today we are going to have a presentation from the Alzheimer's Association. It's the second of our two-part series, so hopefully you caught the first one. If not, you can still do that, I believe, on our website, right, Lisa?
Yes.
Yes. So before we get started, just a couple of quick housekeeping. If you're not a presenter or asking a question, please stay on mute so that we can hear our speakers. If you have questions, put them in the chat box and we'll make sure that the speakers see those and get those answered. Lisa and I can kind of help monitor the chat box as well. And that way we can kind of just get all the questions out there without interrupting a lot. So feel free to put that in the chat box as well as all of your contact information, so everybody knows who's on the call and we know who to network with when this is all over. So with that all being said, I'm Lucy Crandall. I'm with the Seniors Blue Book, and Deb's already mentioned that. We also have Lisa Case on the call with us. And I believe I saw Nancy and Vicki there somewhere, but hopefully they'll get their stuff in the chat box as well. And if you need anything Senior Blue Book related, feel free to reach out to us. We always love to hear from you guys and chat and all that stuff. So do that. Otherwise, I'm going to mute myself and I am going to hand things over to Deb, and she will take it from here and let us know what the rest of the agenda is for the day. So again, thanks for coming, and we'll hopefully see you guys next month at our next SBBU.
Well, thank you, Lucy, and then Lisa. Thank you for putting this together. As I said earlier, we're just so grateful for this opportunity and for the way you help us extend that reach, right? Because that's our ultimate goal, is to reach more people, provide education. I always say, if you're standing still at the grocery store and I can do the 10 signs, I will. But this is a little bit more practical. I am really pleased to introduce, well, two people that there's several of us from the organization. Rosemary's in the room. She serves Central Colorado. I serve Southern Colorado. There are 5 regional directors, and then we have our Denver team. So we have quite a big team. And then of course our development partner, Charlotte, is mine in the Southern Colorado region. She also is Rosemary's in the Central region. You are going to hear from her when we go into the resources part of today. But for today's class, I'm really pleased to introduce you to Crystal Lamb. Crystal is completing her Master's in Public Health Practicum with the Alzheimer's Association, and this is her second and last quarter in her program. Second quarter in her practicum, last quarter in her program. And she is going to deliver the education piece for us today. And then all of us that are staff on the call are going to be here to answer questions and offer information or resources to you. I know many of you are professionals, and so a lot of this might be familiar, but we also can share and answer questions for things, maybe questions you have. So with that, and I also want to tell you the statistics in this program have not been updated yet. So there are some variations there, but I'll go ahead and put the new statistics in the chat, the link to a document with that, so you'll have those current statistics. But Crystal will deliver the way the program was written, and then we'll update it in the chat with the current brand new data. So with that, over to you, Crystal.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for the intro. And it's okay if I just kind of bounce back to you with the Alzheimer's resources at the end? Okay, awesome. Awesome. Sounds good. All right, I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right. All right. And so are you guys seeing this here?
Yep, it's good.
Okay, sounds good. So welcome to Understanding Alzheimer's and Dementia. Once again, I am Crystal Lamb, and I'm a community outreach coordinator with the Alzheimer's Association in the Colorado chapter. I'm actually located in Chicago, but I am volunteering with the Colorado chapter. So this program that we're going to look at today is a top-level look at Alzheimer's and dementia. It's going to give you a broad understanding. By the end of the program today, you'll be able to compare Alzheimer's and dementia, recognize how Alzheimer's disease affects the brain, list the risk factors of Alzheimer's disease, identify the 3 stages of the disease, recognize current FDA-approved treatments that can address some symptoms of the disease, describe how scientists are currently working to advance research, and name the resources available through the Alzheimer's Association. Right, in one moment here, So you may hear the terms Alzheimer's and dementia used interchangeably. They are related but different. So in this section, we're going to discuss both Alzheimer's and dementia and how they're related. And before we begin, there are just a few true or false questions that we're going to go through. These are actually going to be here throughout the presentation. So if you don't have to answer out loud or anything like that, but just to kind of test your knowledge and see what you know about Alzheimer's. So true or false? Do you think Alzheimer's is a normal part of the aging process? This is actually false. Alzheimer's disease is more than memory loss. It's a progressive and fatal disease that kills nerve cells and tissue in the brain, affecting an individual's ability to remember, think, plan, and ultimately function. Here's another one. True or false? People younger than age 65 can develop Alzheimer's. This is actually true. Approximately 200,000 Americans younger than age 65 are living with younger onset Alzheimer's. This is also known as early onset. In some cases, people develop the disease in their 40s or 50s. So next, we're going to watch a video of one of our experts, Dr. Heather Snyder, who will explain how Alzheimer's and dementia are related.
Dementia is the umbrella term for an individual's changes in memory, thinking, or reasoning. There are many possible causes of dementia, and Alzheimer's is the most common cause. Other causes of dementia are vascular dementia, which is marked by changes in the blood flow and the blood vessels in the brain. Dementia with Lewy bodies, identified by specific brain changes throughout the brain that include the buildup of a protein known as alpha-synuclein. And frontal temporal dementia, which is marked by brain cell loss in the front sections of the brain or the frontal lobe. Each type of dementia may have distinct characteristics to cause specific behaviors in the individual, but there is also some overlap in behaviors among the types of dementia.
So as we saw, there are many causes of dementia other than Alzheimer's. However, about 60 to 80% of all dementia cases are caused by Alzheimer's disease. There are numerous types of dementia, and each type has different causes and symptoms. As discussed, Alzheimer's is a brain disease. The brain is our most complex organ. It's also our most powerful, despite weighing only about 3 pounds. So we'll hear again from one of our experts about how Alzheimer's affects the brain.
More than 100 years ago, Dr. Alice Alzheimer's described specific changes in the brain, what we call the formation of plaques and tangles. Now, Alzheimer's is a progressive brain disease that's marked by these key changes and is thought to impact memory, thinking, and behavior. The brain has 3 main parts: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. Each one plays a role in how the body functions. The cerebrum fills up most of your skull. It is part of the brain most involved in remembering, problem solving, thinking, and even feelings. There are about 100 billion nerve cells or neurons throughout the brain that transmit messages in order for us to create memories, feelings, and thoughts. Alzheimer's disease causes nerve cells to die, which leads to the brain tissue loss, or what we call shrinkage, and causes loss of function and communication between cells. These changes can cause the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, such as memory loss, problems with thinking, planning, behavioral issues, and even at the end stages, problems with swallowing.
Everyone with a brain is at risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. There are a few known factors that increase a person's risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Let's see if you can kind of figure which one is the most common. What is the greatest known risk factor for Alzheimer's disease? Genetics, family history, or age? So age is actually true. These are all known risk factors. However, age is the greatest known risk factor. After age 65, the risk of Alzheimer's doubles every 5 years, and 32% of people aged 85 and older have Alzheimer's. Now let's hear a little from one of our experts as she explains the most common risk factors.
Alzheimer's disease is marked by specific brain changes that result in the clinical changes in individual experiences. That is, changes in memory, thinking, or reasoning. And ultimately, Alzheimer's is fatal. The exact cause for these changes is unknown, but there are some hints as to what may contribute to an individual's risk. Age is the greatest known risk factor for Alzheimer's. And when we look at populations of people, we see an increased risk over the age of 65. However, Alzheimer's is not normal aging. Family history is also a known risk factor. Research has shown that those who have a parent or a sibling with Alzheimer's are more likely to develop the disease, and that risk increases if more than one family member has Alzheimer's. When we talk about the genes involved in Alzheimer's, there are two categories that could potentially be involved: risk genes and deterministic genes. Risk genes increases an individual's risk for developing the disease, but does not guarantee that they will develop Alzheimer's. Deterministic genes, which are rare for Alzheimer's, guarantee that the person will develop the disease.
And just to reiterate, Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging. Age is the greatest known risk factor. So let's take a look at some populations who are at a higher risk for developing the disease. In addition to the main risk factors for the general population, Hispanics, African Americans, and women are at higher risk for Alzheimer's. Research shows that older Hispanics are about 1.5 times as likely as older whites to develop Alzheimer's and other dementias, while older African Americans are about twice as likely to develop the disease as older whites. The reason for these differences is not well understood, but researchers believe that higher rates of vascular disease in these groups may also put them at greater risk for developing Alzheimer's. Women are more likely than men to develop the disease. An estimated 3.4 million American women are living with the disease today. We know that women live longer than men, making them more likely to develop Alzheimer's. However, longevity and lower death rates can only partially explain this difference. Researchers are exploring how genetic differences between men and women may impact disease risk. No two individuals experience the symptoms and progression of Alzheimer's disease in the same way. So next we'll hear from another expert, Dr. James Hendricks, on why this is the case, as well as from some individuals describing what it's like to live in the early stage of Alzheimer's disease.
One of the things that impacts our brain is all the other things that can happen to us as we age. And we know that Alzheimer's, the most common risk factor for getting Alzheimer's disease is age. But we also have lots of other things that go wrong with us as we age. And so how those other health factors impact our brain can also impact how Alzheimer's presents in other people.
Math, I can't do a simple tip anymore. You know, I sit there, I stare at it. It's crazy what numbers I can't deal with anymore. And in some ways, that's the disease to me. The other thing that I've increasingly been struggling with are words, which I've dealt with words my entire life, you know, as an avid reader, as a reporter, as a writer. I struggle with them now.
I'm like an overachiever. And when you're unable to deliver or you're not performing at the same pace that you once did before, that's frustrating. It's frustrating to not know where you place things. It's frustrating to not be able to explain to someone the problems that you're having. You can't articulate it in a way. It's frustrating to read something and you forgot what you read. It's frustrating to continuously have to change your password and you just changed it last week and you're constantly doing the same thing over and over again.
Again, the individuals we just heard from are living in the early stage of the disease. Symptoms worsen over time for everyone. However, people progress through stages of Alzheimer's at different rates as their abilities change. On average, a person with Alzheimer's lives 4 to 8 years after diagnosis, but can live as long as 20 years depending on other factors. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Snyder, who will explain the 3 general stages of Alzheimer's disease.
Alzheimer's affects everyone differently. As a result, it's difficult to place a person in a specific stage of the disease. However, there are 3 general stages that are commonly referred to as early, middle, and late stage Alzheimer's. In a medical context, you may hear these stages referred to as mild, moderate, and severe. In the early stage of Alzheimer's, an individual may be able to function independently. However, they may start noticing more frequent memory lapses. Friends and family may also begin to notice difficulties in the person, and a healthcare provider may be able to detect problems in memory or concentration by conducting a detailed medical interview. Middle stage Alzheimer's is typically the longest stage and can last for many years. Damage to the brain cells can make it difficult to express thoughts and perform routine tasks, and this can lead to increased feelings of frustration and anger. In the final stage of the disease, an individual loses the ability to hold a conversation, control their movements, or respond to the environment around them. Cognitive skills, that is, their memory, thinking, and reasoning skills, continue to decline, and this can lead to personality changes and need for round-the-clock care.
So this next module will speak about FDA-approved treatments for symptoms, and we'll start with what you may know about treatments available. True or false? There are several drugs available to slow down the progression of Alzheimer's disease. This is false. There currently is no treatment to prevent, treat, or slow Alzheimer's disease. However, several drugs are available to address some symptoms. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Hendricks about these specific medications.
There are currently several drugs that are FDA approved to treat the cognitive symptoms associated with Alzheimer's disease. They treat the symptoms, but they don't treat the underlying cause. So eventually people will progress, but they do treat some of the symptoms and help people for a time. So the first class of drugs are cholinesterase inhibitors. These drugs work to prevent the breakdown of acetylcholine, which is a chemical messenger found in the brain that's associated with learning and memory. There are 3 FDA-approved drugs that are in this class of drugs. There's Aricept, there's Exelon, and there's Razidine. There's another class of drugs that modulates glutamate, which is another chemical messenger in the brain that's associated with learning and memory. And this drug is called Namenda. And then there's a a final class, which is actually a combination of cholinesterase inhibitors and glutamate modulator, and this is called Namzaric.
Because everyone experiences Alzheimer's differently, these treatments work in varying degrees and are not effective for everyone. An accurate diagnosis is important to ensure that the proper treatment is prescribed. Drug misuse can lead to negative side effects. In the last decade, researchers have made enormous strides in understanding how Alzheimer's disease affects the brain. Many recent insights point toward promising new strategies for treatment, prevention, and diagnosis.
I'm excited about what we're learning these days regarding lifestyle. One of those things that we've seen in the past are things like exercise and nutrition have now started to gain more momentum to indicate to us that it can change your ability to slow cognitive decline. That is really the first stages of Alzheimer's disease. This may include things like social engagement, mental cognitive training. It can be things such as exercise. It can be nutrition. All those things are now starting to point that they will lower your risk for Alzheimer's disease. I'm excited about what we're learning.
This is an incredibly exciting time in Alzheimer's and dementia research. The advancements that we've made in the last decade to understand the disease as a continuum, meaning that the biological changes are starting a decade or more before someone is experiencing the changes in the memory and thinking. This sets the stage for possible prevention. The idea that when we have the tools to identify those individuals at the earliest time point, and when we have the interventions to target individuals at that earliest time point, we can intervene to stop or slow the progression of the disease before an individual loses their memories.
As we just heard, there is a lot of hope for where we're headed with Alzheimer's research. One of the key ways to keep research moving in the right direction is through clinical studies. Let's take a look at an association service that can help people find studies.
Currently, more than 5 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's. By participating in clinical research, you can move us toward methods of treatment and prevention for all those affected by this devastating disease. Alzheimer's Association Trial Match is a free clinical studies matching service for those with dementia, caregivers, and healthy volunteers. To start, simply create a confidential user profile and receive a list of studies that may be a match for you. Don't just hope for a cure, help us find one.
The Alzheimer's Association is in communities across the country, providing direct service to individuals and families facing the disease. We have some resources here that are available whenever and wherever you need the information and support. I'll actually go ahead and give this over to Deb so she can explain the resources a little further.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Crystal, for presenting that program. I often say that the UAD class is kind of a big picture program, right? And then we have a very large library of classes available to you that you can go into more detail and even deep dive classes like our Living with Alzheimer's series, which is 8 weeks long. So there's quite a lot of resources to you, whether you're a family caregiver, or you're a professional, we welcome you in all of our programs and classes, and we'd love to have you join us. All of our programs also live in a recorded space at training.alz.org, and I'll go ahead and type that into the chat in a moment as well. And that's a place where you can go and watch everything, all 12 classes that we offer on demand, which is nice. I like the webinars better because you get to interact. In terms of our programs, so our staff partners like me, the regional team who work in the program side, we provide what we call care consultation, so that one-on-one support with an individual caregiver or family members in this virtual room. It's actually quite nice because we can do a care consultation with family even when they're spread across states or towns. We can now get together and have a family meeting, and we welcome those opportunities. Often who we're supporting though are the individual caregivers, is probably who I meet the most with. Folks who have an early stage diagnosis, we do have early stage programs. Two of our staff partners have been working really hard on putting that together in this virtual space, and they really have done quite a great job. And we're going to even launch a young onset program this summer. So look for that. And if you know folks that need support, whether they're early stage folks living with dementia, or they're the care partners, the family members, or your own team, we want to teach anyone and everyone we can get in front of. So our education programs are really important, our care and support programs. And then we have a really wonderful library of virtual support groups, everything from our local groups that will go back to in person when we open up, maybe a hybrid version, maybe not. We're still working on those. And then also sort of our chapter wide offerings that we think will stay that way, including a grief group, an anticipatory grief group. We have a Lewy body dementia specific groups, FTD, and more. We just have such really wonderful services for support groups, and they now live in a virtual space, which is really a wonderful thing. We always are looking for volunteers. We welcome volunteers on our program side. We have really meaningful roles for volunteers. Our volunteers aren't called volunteers. They have job titles like we do, and very specific roles. And we welcome you in our space. If that's something that interests you, we have wonderful, wonderful ways to get involved. And now I'd like to introduce you to Charlotte, who's my staff partner in our region, and also Rosemary. She serves 2 regions, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about other ways that we can get involved in supporting all of our work. I'll begin by saying our development team are the folks that raise awareness and get the support for all of our programs. And all of our programs are always free of charge, which I think is such a remarkable thing. I get to say to folks every time I have a care consultation, no, there's no charge for our services. And what a gift that is. So over to you, Charlotte, and you can share what else we're doing in our chapter.
Thank you. As Deb said, I am the development manager for Central and Southern Colorado, and my role is to raise awareness as well as money for the association. And the main way that I do that is supporting our Walk to End Alzheimer's. If you don't know, we are planning on walking in person this year at our 13 sites across the state. And we will have ways for you to participate virtually or on your own if you're not quite ready to be with others. So the walk is the world's largest event to raise awareness and funds to support the programs and services that Deb just talked about. We have, like I said, 13 in Colorado and over 625 nationwide. And these walks raise money that serve 3 key areas. The first is the programs that help improve the quality of life for those living with Alzheimer's and all dementia. Second, that free support for families who are providing care for their loved ones through our educational programs, our support groups, and our very important 24/7 helpline. And we can serve individuals on that helpline through 200 different languages. So we get to serve more than just English-speaking Americans. Third, we fund innovative research, and the Alzheimer's Association is the largest nonprofit funder of research around the world. And we are also only third to the US and Chinese governments. So important to know that most of what we're doing with that money that we raise through many different ways goes to that research to find a cure. As Deb mentioned, our programs, education, helpline, and resources are at no charge to those that use them. And of course, to be able to do that on a local level is to support the events in our communities. So in addition to our walk, we have this month, the longest day, which we celebrate on the summer solstice. We say the day with the most light is the day we fight. And we are fighting across the world the darkness of Alzheimer's and all dementia through this activity where you can do what you want. So if you want to exercise, do a hobby, create art, have a party, even a virtual party, it's basically turning your passion into a purpose. And we fundraise through the end of August for this year for the longest day, but we do a lot of celebrating on that day. The longest day and the walk provide a way to celebrate those living with the disease and those that have passed, as well as their amazing caregivers. Our vision is a world without Alzheimer's and all dementia. So in the end, we ask you to be a part of something bigger and make an impact in your community. You can do that by volunteering to be an educator, a support group leader, help plan our events like the walk or the longest day. If those things don't resonate with you, join a team, create a team for the walk or do an event for the longest day. If you own a business, you can help by sponsoring an event or creating a team through your organization. For more information on the walk and how to register, I'll put a link in the chat. And thank you so much. I appreciate all of you for being here.
And I would just only add too, if you're an organization, an agency, a business, we would love to come and present to your team. Or we'd love to collaborate with you to deliver community education where you are. Our staff is very intentional about wanting to get into any nook and cranny and any audience. There really isn't an audience too small or too big for us. We'd love to be a partner with you where you are in supporting your team and the folks you serve. So please let us know. You can email me or you can email, Ralph is on the call now too, Rosemary, any of us. We'll get you to the right staff partner. And actually, I'll send when I send those other resources to Lucy and Lisa to disseminate, I'll include our map, our regional map that shows where we serve and who we are, where we are. Know that we are one team though, and we are just all in this together. So if you reach the wrong person, it's okay. We're gonna get you where you need to be. And then I think that's all. I wonder if you all have any questions. There's some interesting things happening, right? Aducanumab is on the horizon. Will the FDA approve it or not? If you're not familiar with that, maybe we can speak to that if that's of interest to you. We can speak to the new data. The new data really highlights how our diverse communities are truly affected in disproportionate ways, and that's important to us. But what other questions? What are the issues, concerns, thoughts that you have that our team, we have quite a nice group here, and I think each of us have sort of our strengths, so we can certainly help deliver some good information to you.
And I didn't see any questions in the chat box, but Lisa, Christine Mickens asked if we can put the link to the last SBBU in the chat, or can you send her that link?
Yes, I'll put that link in the chat. Let me find that real quick.
And I did put the summary page for the current facts and figures in the chat as well, so you can look at that. But the full report is accessible on our website, and I'll make sure I send that to you and Lucy and Lisa as well, so you can share that.
Yep.
And there are some questions. So I guess there's Joanne.
Yeah, looks like Joanne. Yep. Go ahead, Joanne. Ask your question.
Well, I put it in the chat, and this is Joanne at the Colorado Commission for the Deaf, Hard of Hearing, and Deaf Blind. I think from a personal perspective, I'm wondering why the statistics say 2/3 of Americans with Alzheimer's are women. And I'm just wondering, Why that is what the reason for that, if you know.
You know, that's a big topic of research, actually. So the why are women disproportionately affected? I think in kind of the past, maybe it was, oh, well, women lived longer, but you know, we're all living longer. So is it hormonal? Is it low education is a factor? You know, maybe women of older women maybe didn't have the education attainment. Is that a variable? There's so many reasons why we can develop dementia and Alzheimer's disease in particular. So it is, what are those kind of variables that lead to us as women being at the most risk population? But I don't think we have definitive answers. And Rosemary and Ralph, I wonder if you have any other thoughts on that.
No, it's just what you said, Deb. There's no definitive answers. I do know that Dr. Snyder was doing research on that. She was one of the researchers that was investigating that. And there was one interesting study that had something to do with women who had, what was it, more than 2 or 3 children were less likely to get dementia. I do know this for sure. It has nothing to do with women having to put up with men all their lives. There's absolutely no correlation whatsoever. So let's just dispel that myth right off the bat.
Are you absolutely sure about that, Ralph?
He's hopeful. He's hopeful.
He's hopeful. Yeah.
But it's interesting because women are also disproportionately kind of a 2 times wise, right? We're not only more likely to have Alzheimer's disease as a population, we're also most likely to be caregiving. So we're kind of hit twice, and it's really something that affects women disproportionately. People of color.
There is another question in the chat, and it's a really good one. First steps, advice to tell neighbor and his family who have noticed dementia symptoms in wife recently. So when you've noticed a sign or 2, what are the first steps? How does that conversation start? Like, what do you do?
Well, we teach an excellent class called the 10 warning signs. And really, we're advocates at the association of what we call early detection and diagnosis. Unfortunately, what happens often is folks start to see these signs and symptoms and, you know, kind of maybe push that away. It's a little scary, right? They may not get to the doctor. And our wish is that everyone at your annual wellness visit, if you're over the age of 65, so really 66, because it's your first visit after your initial visit, you should be asking for a cognitive assessment. Just as a matter of fact, it is a mandate of the Older Americans, of the Affordable Care Act, and it is supposed to happen. You know, if we imagine that happening routinely, like we measure blood sugar and we do other tests and look at our blood, you know, counts and all those things, that early detection is likely to happen sooner. But we really advocate for cognitive assessments at the primary care level. And if cognitive change is noted, we suggest you seek advice from a specialist like you would any other significant health issue. We would do that, right? So my husband a year ago had like a weird white cell count, and it was called thrombocytopenia, and they sent us to the hematologist. They didn't just deal with that in primary care, and that led to some other discoveries which were life-saving for him. So we really think that it's important to seek a early detection, and that's that cognitive assessment routinely at your annual wellness visit, or if you are noticing symptoms, and then getting a referral to a specialist to find out your why, because there are over 100 reasons why a person may be presenting with dementia symptoms. And we don't want to assume it's the worst possible case scenario, when in fact it could be something treatable and simple to address. Great question. And yes, Lucy wrote in that we recorded the last session, which was the 10 warning signs. And that is just a great place to start, because it gives you some kind of a roadmap for not only identifying those signs and symptoms, but we're having that conversation. And you can call us. We're happy to brainstorm with you. How do I talk to this person? They're not really receptive to this notion of seeing a doctor right now. We can maybe offer some support there too. We want you to know, as professionals, if you need to call the helpline or you need to call us, we're very much here for you as well. So don't ever hesitate. If you have a situation, you're like, what are my blind spots? What else could I do? We would love to have that conversation with you as well and support you in your work. You're as important to us as anyone because you're frontline and we want to be a resource to you. And I think that's it. Does anyone have any other questions? We're always just so grateful. The more we know, right? The more we can share what we know. We don't have any need to hold on to our knowledge. We really want to share it with you and work with you as a partner. So please, just let us know. And Rosemary, I know, I wonder if you have any other thoughts that you'd want to share too.
No, I think that was great, Deborah. Thank you. We are actually working closely with UCCS Aging Center and Colorado Springs, and hopefully that outreach will help with that early detection.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, then we will wrap it up and we will hope to see you guys all either online with the Alzheimer's Association if you need them, or at our next SBB University next month. Lisa, do we know what that is?
I'm sorry, I don't have that information, but of course I will get that out as soon as I do.
So check your newsletters. If you're not on our email mailing list to get that notification, let us know. We're happy to add you to whichever market you're in. And that way you'll get our notices for our SBBU. So thank you again to the Alzheimer's Association for the incredible information. We just all need to put this on, replay and hear it over and over again until it finally sinks in, because it's just so much. So anyway, thank you guys all for being here, and we're happy with our partnership and look forward to the walks this year. So get your teams registered. Other than that, have a great day.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Crystal.
Yes, thank you, Crystal. You're awesome. Just like Deb said.